There is no state with a record that approaches that of Mississippi in inhumanity, murder, brutality, and racial hatred. It is absolutely at the bottom of the list.
Andy Young, who spoke at Fannie Lou Hamer's funeral and made the point that she stood up and brought about the transformation that made him possible.
The phrase that she used all the time was, "I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired."
But I know a change gonna come.
Fannie Lou Hamer was born in 1917 on a plantation in Mississippi.
At first, I wanted to be white, because my family was 20 of us, 6 girls and 14 boys. And we wouldn't have food in the wintertime. So I figured then the white people must be right. But as I got older, I said, no, there's something wrong. And if I ever get a chance, I'm going to do something about it.
She did triumph over those circumstances to become the civil rights activist Fannie Lou Hamer.
Although the Civil War ended slavery, making good the promise of the preamble to the Constitution, to secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity, the tragedy of Fannie Lou Hamer's life was that conditions in Mississippi had barely changed.
That segregation and racism went on for 100 years after the end of the Civil War was an absolute tragedy.
In 1896, the United States Supreme Court ruled on a case called Plessy v. Ferguson and officially began the era of separate but equal. Facilities, however, were rarely equal.
When Fannie Lou was just 6, her sharecropping career began. She recalled,
"I never will forget one day. I was 6 years old and this plantation owner asked me, could I pick cotton? He was trapping me into doing the work I was to keep doing, and I never did get out of his debt again."
On August 31st, 1962, when Hamer was 44, she stopped sharecropping. She learned from SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, that she had a right to vote. Mrs. Hamer got on a bus with 17 other black citizens, bound for the Sunflower County seat to register. Hamer had come to recognize voting as the true equalizer.
We take it so for granted, but without the right to vote, you have nothing in this country. That's one of our first rights.
All 18 flunked the voter registration test, which was designed for failure, with questions such as,
if a person charged of treason denies his guilt, how many persons must testify against him before he can be convicted?
Upon her return, the plantation owner evicted Hamer from her home, and a few nights later, staying with neighbors, shots were fired into their house by night riders. Hamer stated,
"Things went from badder to worse."
Yet in that year, Fannie Lou Hamer began to triumph over the tragedy of her life and that of all blacks in the Mississippi Delta. As she said every day when she awoke, she was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
The Mississippi Delta was the most dangerous part of Mississippi, which in turn was the most dangerous state in the South.
Many freedom movement people will say Mississippi was the absolute worst in the sense of the most persecution, the most violence against blacks, the most vicious repression against the freedom movement, and the most severe denial of the right to vote.
But Hamer said,
"What was the point of being scared? The only thing they could do to me was kill me, and it seemed like they'd been trying to do that a little bit at a time ever since I could remember."
The effort to secure voting rights for blacks came to a head in 1964 when Bob Moses announced Mississippi Freedom Summer. Opposition was in full force. The White Citizens Council, formed in 1954 to resist Brown versus Board of Education, sprung into action. William J. Simmons, head of the council, explained why.
I'm the product of my heredity and education and the society in which I was raised. And I have a vested interest in that society, and I, along with 1 million other white Mississippians, will do everything in our power to protect that vested interest.
Another group already at work, the Mississippi State Sovereignty Commission, was created in 1956 by the state legislature to monitor civil rights activity. The commission worked outside the state to win public opinion to their side, promoting the benefits of segregation Mississippi style.
As in every community in Mississippi, there is segregation of the races. Drinking fountains are segregated. Restrooms are segregated. Just as the pattern of segregation is evident in Forest, so too is the real interest both races have in each other's welfare.
Not convinced, enthusiastic college students flooded the state, to help with voter registration. Many white volunteers, however, did not realize the extent of the problem.
I thought there was just a misunderstanding. We'd go down there, we'd register people to vote, and the problem would be over. I didn't realize that it was much more complicated than that, and that the white people were very worried and very threatened.
It was dangerous work. In 1963, Hamer and other activists had been jailed and brutally beaten in Winona, Mississippi. As a result, Hamer lost vision in one eye and walked with a limp for the rest of her life. With those tragic events, it was a personal triumph that Hamer continued her work, but it made all the volunteers during Freedom Summer realize their very lives were at stake.
Freedom Summer culminated in August 1964 with the Democratic National Convention in Atlantic City, New Jersey. To focus the attention of the nation on conditions in Mississippi, Hamer co-founded the MFDP, or Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, and served as vice chairperson. The purpose of the MFDP was to unseat the original Lily White Mississippi delegation.
On August 22nd, Martin Luther King Jr., James Farmer, and Roy Wilkins asked the Credentials Committee to unseat the Mississippi delegation. However, in her greatest triumph, it was Fannie Lou Hamer who galvanized the convention as she described her personal experiences in the voting rights struggle. On live television, she questioned America, saying,
"The Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now. I question America. Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off of the hook because our lives be threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings in America?"
This speech was broadcast across the nation. President Lyndon Johnson was furious. Hamer's speech was changing Johnson's agenda. He tried to lure the media away from her by forcing Hubert Humphrey to call an impromptu press conference. This ploy failed, and Hamer's triumphant speech was broadcast on the evening news. Citizens coast to coast were made painfully aware of the voting rights struggle.
At the convention, Fannie Lou Hamer sang on the boardwalk, in meetings, wherever movement participants gathered. There and throughout her civil rights career, she used her powerful voice as a tool to keep spirits and motivation high. The MFDP was offered only 2 seats at large, not as part of the Mississippi delegation. After heated debate, they refused. Hamer said,
"We didn't come all this way for no 2 seats, when all of us is tired."
Nonetheless, this moment was Fannie Lou Hamer's greatest triumph. Congressman John Lewis noted that the MFDP played by the rules and the system failed them. He stated,
"As far as I'm concerned, this was the turning point of the civil rights movement. I'm absolutely convinced of that." Hamer's speech, along with the subsequent march in Selma, led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965, giving all citizens the right to full participation in the United States government.
Fannie Lou Hamer went on to run for political office twice, losing both times, but she was seated at the 1968 and 1972 conventions. In later years, she remained a voice to be reckoned with, not only on voting rights, but on Head Start and other anti-poverty programs. Before she died on March 14, 1977, she made known what she wanted on her tombstone. "I am sick and tired of being sick and tired."
As a testament to her importance in the civil rights movement and the voting rights struggle, at the 2004 Democratic National Convention, Maya Angelou and the original members of the MFDP paid tribute to Hamer.
Hamer's legacy was confirmed when, on July 20, 2006, Congress renewed the Voting Rights Act for 25 years. They named it the Fannie Lou Hamer, Rosa Parks, and Coretta Scott King Voting Rights Reauthorization and Amendments Act.
If Hamer were alive today, she would no longer have to be sick and tired of being sick and tired.
I view Fannie Lou Hamer as someone coming out of that tragic background as a triumph. She was a person building a movement. She was part of something bigger than herself, though a great leader within it. And I think part of the triumph is the movement spirit that all of us can change the world if we organize.
Who's out yonder dressed in white? Let my people go. Look like the children of the Israelites. Oh, let my people go. Oh, tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Oh, tell it on the mountain.